the Mount of Transfiguration. And there we have that incredible scene like with Moses, where he is enveloped in a cloud, and the disciples see Elijah and Moses in the cloud with him. Good old Peter, he likes it up there. He says, let's just live here. I'll build 3 tents. We'll just stay up on the mountain. Who wants to go back to that old fallen world? But Jesus comes back down the mountain into this existence that we live. We all like being up on the mountain. We all like that high spiritual time, that time of feeling close to God. Wednesday evening when we had the Ash Wednesday service here, it was just a moving circle as person after person came forward, and we marked each one and said, from ashes you come and to ashes you will return. It reminded us of our mortality, that we're only here on this earth for a brief period of time. Jesus comes down the mountain to be with us in this fallen and sinful world, to redeem that world. During this season of Lent, we are unafraid to look at the sinful nature of our being. As they say, the good news is good news because it's the answer to the bad news. And the bad news is in Adam's fall we all. We're all fallen creatures. I had a good time as I was researching this sermon, and I thought about, there's a list of the 7 deadly sins that the Catholic Church, our brothers and sisters, a part of our Christian movement around the world, has defined over the years. The 7 sins that really get you in trouble. And so I'm going to go over those this morning, and if any of them sound familiar, you might want to pay attention to those. As not in the preacher, certainly none of them would apply to me, but let's just think about the 7 deadly sins, the sins that really separate you from hearing the voice of God, because that's what sin does. Sin separates you so that you can't hear the voice of God or see the signs of God. It blinds you. The root word for the word sin comes from the image of shooting an arrow at a target and just barely missing. You're shooting in the right direction, but you're just a little off. It skews everything. Number 1 on the list of the 7 deadly sins, anger. Well, I'm certainly glad none of us feel that. Anger. Not just righteous anger, but the kind of anger that constantly is pushing you, that defines your personality. And we all know people like that. They seem to have this rage inside of them that they can't get rid of. It's a deadly sin. We can be freed from that through Christ. Anger, greed. That's a deadly sin. Greed to want more and more and more and more and more, and there's never enough. Michael Moore, who has made a couple of different movies and known as an activist, was in Wisconsin 2 weeks ago trying to help the workers there. He made a speech, and he said something I thought was incredible. He said the top 400 families, not just 400 people, but 400 families, the top 400 families in the United States have a net worth that's equal to 50% of the population. Can you believe that? Incredible concentration of wealth. Somebody has been greedy. Somebody has said, I never had enough. Anger, greed. This one, I must admit, I feel especially close to, the sin of sloth. Sloth is just being no good. It's being lazy, but it's more than being lazy. It's being lazy to the point where you don't care about what other people think. You don't care about what other people do. You don't care about anything. Sloth is just leave me alone. Pride, which the church has always considered the most important of the deadly sins. Hubris is the Greek word. It means I don't need anybody, I can do it myself. Lust. Oh, there's a good one. Lust sexualized your activities. It drives you. It's what you think about all the time. It's not just the natural feeling of sexuality. It's like sexuality on steroids. Our feminist sisters have educated me over the years that when we objectify people, we don't really see them as whole people, but just sexual objects. That is when lust is controlling our being. Anger, greed, sloth, pride, lust, envy. Well, look at the car they're driving. And look at the clothes he's wearing. And look how much hair he has. And look how much weight she... Envy. I want to be like them. I want to have what they have. And finally, gluttony. Now, we love to eat in the Methodist Church, but we don't want to be gluttons. The 7 deadly sins, those 7 elements, and they're in all of us, some element of it, can poison us to seeing the world. Thank God that the church has also come up with the virtues that counteract the sins. This is kind of a teaching sermon this morning. If you want to make. The opposite of lust is chastity. Being chaste means being pure. It means you have pure intentions toward the other person. You don't want to use them. You're not just having these physical relationships for your own gratification. You're pure in your attention. Gluttony, the opposite of gluttony is temperance. I like that. Remember the old temperance society? That's right. Temperance. Everything in moderation. Not too much, not too little. Greed, the cure for that is charity. Give away what you have. Give to others. Sloth, my problem. Diligence. Being ready, being able, being equipped. Ever ready. Semper Fi.